Hi, this is Sunday School with Bonnie, and today we're going to look at faith. You know that song by Jordan Feliz? It's called Faith. You just got to have faith. That's where we're going today in our little Sunday School lesson. So I wanted to give you a brief introduction to the general epistles before we jump into the actual lesson part. The general epistles are comprised of 8 books. And those particular 8 books were shared with a variety of churches. You know, a church would receive the epistle or the letter, and they would read it and study it and then pass it on to another church, and it would just get handed down around through all the churches. It wasn't for a specific church in a specific situation. It was more general in purpose, thus the general epistles. And these general epistles include the books of Hebrew. Hebrew presents Jesus as the ultimate mediator between God and man. It includes James, which gives basic instructions on how to live. Also includes 1st and 2nd Peter, and it tells the believers how to behave whenever they're faced with persecution. You know, when those people come and bother you because you're a Christian and what's up with you, this is how you're going to deal with them. It is also about 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, where there's a warning about false teaching and the assurance that as a Christian there is salvation available for you. And then we have Jude, which warns against false teachers as well. So today's lesson comes from Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 19, and James chapter 2, verses 14 through 24. Maybe later on you could go back and listen to this again, or go and look up these particular scriptures and read the entire story at your leisure. That would be awesome. Also, I'll give you a chance to go digging through your Bible, get the book itself, not what's on the phone. Get the book, touch the pages, turn and flip, like I would make you do if we were in class face-to-face. Also, I want to let you know that the memory verse for today's lesson comes from James chapter 2, verse 17. The New International Version says, faith by itself, if it's not accompanied with action, is dead. It's worthless. So we want to make sure that you put faith into action so you have life. Faith is believing in something that has no proof. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you're not sure, it's kind of vague, it's out there, but yet you believe in it still. So if we believe in Jesus and in his salvation, our lives will in turn reflect that faith, and we do that by serving. And we are engaging our faith not just with the words that we say and how we say things, but also by what we do, what actions we pursue. You can't say you believe something without acting on what you say that you believe in. So it's a 2-part definition of faith. It's that believing, but it's also the acting that's required. James, who was the half-brother of Jesus, wrote the book of James, and he was an important leader in the early church. He was very prominent in the Jewish community, and in fact, Paul called him a pillar of the church in Galatians 2, verse 9. James wrote this letter to the Jewish Christian church, and they were not in one location. They were scattered about in a lot of different cities and different countries. So this general epistle would have gone out to everybody. Today we would email it and have a master list of multiple email addresses and send it, and everybody would get it simultaneously. Well, of course, back in the day, you had to ride a donkey and carry it to one church to the next church and pass it on. Oh, you're going to go to such and such a place. Would you take this letter, please, and deliver it to that church? So it took a little while to get around, but that's okay. They still received the message. And this particular letter was sent to encourage the people as they faced persecution for their faith. Nobody likes to be picked on. And so James was trying to say, it's okay. You know what? Stand firm. Believe in God and keep your faith. Now, in order to keep that faith, act on it. Do the things that will encourage and grow and batten down the level of faith that you have in your own life. So James also wrote about how important it is that the people were to continue to do God's will. Faith by itself, if it's not accompanied with an action, is dead. And by writing this, James was telling the believers to put their faith into action, to, in other words, act out what they believe. So don't just think, oh, that's good enough. I believe that's good enough. You have to do more. You have to engage. You have to become involved. And you have to act. James used an example from the Old Testament. He went and found Abraham. Remember that God had promised Abraham that Abraham would have a large family. It would be an extended family, and this promise was awesome because it would make up the Jewish nation. Abraham had waited for many, many years to have a son, and God gave him one. Later, Abraham was asked by God, could you please take your son now, and I want you to sacrifice him. It didn't quite set right with Abraham. And you have to remember, back at that time, Adam and Eve, since Adam and Eve's time and forward, sacrifices had been made to God in a way to thank him for provisions, to thank him for keeping them safe, to show obedience from each individual person to God, to show a sorrow for their sin if they did something that they knew was not according to God's dictates in the Ten Commandments, then they had to ask for atonement. Well, also in that day and age, there were people who were not believing in God. They were pursuing other idols, false gods, and they would offer up sacrifices to their pagan gods. And typically, they would be human sacrifices. And this was not acceptable to God. It took a lot of faith for Abraham to say, all right, God, I trust you. I hear what you're telling me to do. I have to just believe in you, even though this is not in the norm. I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to prepare myself and my son, and we're going to make this sacrifice. The problem, was that here's Abraham, and God's asking him to give up his only son. God, you just gave me Isaac. You just gave me the son, and now I have to go sacrifice him? What's up with that? Abraham could have chosen not to act on his faith and disobey God. Or Abraham could choose to obey and sacrifice his son. And in doing so, God would keep his promise to multiply Abraham's seed, his family, his lineage. As a result of Abraham's decision, which was to choose to be obedient, Abraham was able to see God's plan. God sent a lamb, and God said, by way of a visiting angel, hold up there, Abraham. I have the proper sacrifice for you. Your son is fine. Take him off the altar. Let's use the lamb, and let's do this. And God rewarded Abraham for his ability to rely on God, to be faithful to what God asked of him. That's a big step. That was as a mom, that would be heart-rending to have to sacrifice my son. And yet God did that for Jesus, with Jesus. He sacrificed his only son so that all of us could have eternal life. Abraham acted on his faith, and the world was blessed because of him and through him. We can follow that example, and our faith in God should be followed by acts of service to God. So, what does it mean to live your faith or to put your faith into action? You do things for God. You obey what he tells you to do, what his commandments are, what he tells you in your prayer time, what the Bible tells you, you obey. You trust in God for help even when it's a challenge, even when the situation is difficult. Some ways you can live your faith is by witnessing to others. You can pray for other people, for your friends, for your family. You can invite people to church. Not so much right now while we are in quarantine, but you can invite people to hook up on Facebook to share God's message through Sunday school lessons, through special teachings, through other opportunities. You can be kind to others. Talks about being kind to people in your household too. You're with them all day, every day, and sometimes it can be a little challenging to be nice, to be patient, but this is an opportunity for you to gain those fruits that the Spirit wants to develop further in you. Take advantage of this time and dig into what else the Spirit wants to teach you. Trust God to meet your needs, and trust Him even if He doesn't do what you want Him to do. God's way is the only way. And you put your trust in Him, not in yourself, not in other people. They will, what's the word I'm looking for? They will disappoint you. Or what you ask will not be exactly what it is that you need. What God asks of you, what you do in obedience to Him, will be blessed. And your development of faith in believing in what He has for you is integral to your further development as a Christian. And as you mature into young adults, you're going to need to rely on your faith more and more and more every day. This is not something that you've got it. You've got all the faith you need, and it's a one-time shot. This is an ongoing process. Throughout all of your life, through the many years to come, you will be building your faith. Put your trust in God. Always look to Him for the direction that He wants to give you, and be obedient to what He asks of you. He'll help you. So no matter what, trust in Him. Just got to have faith. All right? Just got to have faith. So continue to learn, continue to rely on God, and go check out these other examples of faith. I've got 9 different people from the Scriptures that are short snippets of stories of their life that show how they used their faith, not just by saying what they believed in, but by also acting on their belief to share with others how God blessed their lives and how God can bless you. I miss all of my Sunday school kids very dearly. I pray for you often, almost daily. Sometimes I get lost in my prayer loop and pray for other things and other people, but then I come back around again. Where are my kids? What are they doing? I love you and I miss you, and I'm praying that your faith will grow each moment of each day.